Hello everyone and good morning. This is Rachel live from the 𝐊𝐚𝐥 studios. You're watching the early trades. While the domestic quarterly updates, the upcoming OBA meeting and this week's lineup of key economic data releases are closely eyed by market participants. The virus threat in India continues to cast dark shadows to the key global indexes. Let us cast an eye now over how market charter is panning out today. Australian shares are trading marginally higher today on the back of miners and energy sector, while the tech sector pullback is capping the gains. Aussie gold stocks eye the best day in almost 3 weeks as bullion prices jump. Gold prices stormed higher overnight as the weakness in the bond yields in the US dollar gave the precious metal a boost. Australian gold miners such as Ramelius Resources, Silver Lake Resources and Northern Star Resources storm higher today. Meanwhile, oil prices rose more than 1% as Chinese economic figures and US vaccination rate pointed to a robust recovery in demand in the world's two largest economies. Oil companies such as Santos, Woodside Petroleum and Beach Energy lead the energy sector. The big news of the day comes from the operator of Australian online job advertising website, 𝐊𝐶. Their shares jumped up 7% to a record high after the job portal upgraded its earnings outlook. The company has upgraded its guidance on the back of improved operating conditions, with revenue outperformance from its 𝐊𝐶 ANZ, that's primarily from their SMEs, and 𝐊𝐶 Asia businesses. They plan to pay a dividend of 20 cents. That's been helped by proceeds from a stake sale in Chinese unit 𝐊𝐴𝐼𝐴. Next, leading retailer Super Retail Group is one of the most discussed stocks today. Super Retail sees its best day in over 3 months as like-for-like sales surged 28% in the first 44 weeks of financial year 2021. Moving on now, Australia's �ResApp has notched up their best session in 7 weeks on a deal with a Kenyan firm. The digital healthcare solutions provider has signed an agreement with a Kenyan-based health technology company called Elara Health. Under this agreement, Elara will promote, market and sell �ResApp DX, �ResApp's smartphone app for acute respiratory disease diagnosis in Kenya. Moving on to other major newsmakers of the day now, IT player Infomedia announced that they had acquired US-based e-commerce platform SimplePart for an upfront consideration of $24.5 million American dollars, along with an earnout of $20.5 million American dollars over 3 years. Meanwhile, Ramsay's wholly owned funding group has been ascribed an investment-grade credit rating of BBB, that's stable, by the credit rating agency Fitch. Moving on now, furniture retailer Nick Scali expects 90% profit rise in financial year 2021, with sales remaining robust throughout the March quarter. Then WAAX component WiseTech Global has matched the guidance issued at its first half earnings result. It had anticipated a $470 million to $510 million in revenue and $165 million to $190 million in EBITDA for financial year 2021. Meanwhile, travel player Flight Centre says its March sales revenue was comfortably higher than the previous coronavirus period record. The March turnover was over $100 million, or 32.7%. That's higher than February. Australia's digital property retailer, the Domain Group's revenue grew 2% in the March quarter, owing to expansion in listings as Australia's property market gained strength. In an update to the Macquarie Australia conference, Worley says it is on track for an improved result in the second half compared to the first half of 2020 to 2021. Looking at the charged up crypto space now, cryptocurrency Ethereum has scaled to a new record high of above $3,000 US. That's gaining over 11% in a single day as investors bet on its increased adoption. Its 2021 gain of 325% has eclipsed that of its bigger rival, Bitcoin. Let us see what can impact the markets this week. Well, the Reserve Bank of Australia will be deciding on the cash rate in its meeting this afternoon. Economists expect the central bank to keep the official rates unchanged at 0.1% as most economic indicators are running ahead of official forecasts. The RBA is not expected to bring about any major change to its policy. It would also continue with its quantitative easing programme. On Friday, the RBA would follow up with its financial services review. Next, the Australian Bureau of Statistics data for new borrower-accepted finance commitments for housing, personal and business loans would also be out today. Overall, investors will closely eye half-yearly earnings from 3 of the 4 of Australian big banks over the week. In its half-yearly release yesterday, the Westpac Banking Corporation enjoyed a stellar first half of 2021 on the back of continued economic recovery in Australia and New Zealand. Australian investors are set to closely track data on building approvals and international trade in goods and services. Meanwhile, we can also expect the US employment report for April to be released later in the week on May the 7th. We can also see the Reserve Bank of Australia Deputy Governor Guy Debelle will make a speech on Thursday, along with the statement on monetary policy on Friday, which will also be keenly tracked. That's all for now. Stay tuned for more live updates on Kalkine TV across the economy, markets and sectors. I'm Rachel Jones for Kalkine TV, signing off.